Really excited to see all the faces here. How many people had a chance to talk to the students that are out in the concourse here? Right? Pretty incredible, right? So I'll give them all a round of applause. Right. So thank you all for being here today. This is a day that I personally enjoy because we really talk about things that we don't normally talk about in the main symposium, right? It's a separate event. GEOINT Foreword, play on words, call it a triple entendre, if you will. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Daryl. I came to USGIF via kind of a circuitous route of being a volunteer. Careful what you volunteer for, you might get hired to do it eventually. You notice the title says Vice President of Professional Development. That's what today is all about. GEOINT Forward is about professional development. You can define it any way you want. Here's the way I think of it. If there is somebody out there that is interested in geospatial science and technology, someone that may be interested in doing things with the art and science of the possible with respect to things that are someplace at some time, they belong here. So, as we think about what we're doing today, a few things I wanted to highlight. Hey, Jeff, could I borrow that for a second? You got exactly what I want. I brought one prop with me today. This is the prop, right? We're going to talk about the hackathon here in a minute, but I want to call your attention to this document. This is the United States Geospatial Intelligence Foundation's efforts over the last couple of years to create an essential body of knowledge for the practice of geospatial intelligence. So, but first, I want to talk about a couple events that have happened here, right? So we've got this hackathon that we just got done doing. Pretty incredible event. It was literally just last weekend, because we figured we didn't have enough to do in preparation for this event, so we needed to have another one on the weekend before. The event started on Friday last, and lasted about 44 hours consecutively. And what you see here is a picture of the judges and the winners, which were actually interns, interestingly enough. Two folks from OG Systems, somebody from the Naval Academy, and someone from Stanford University. They put together an absolutely incredible presentation. Our chairman of the board, Jeff Harris, was there. And we talked about it, and it's like, that is the future. And the fact that unanimously we judges decided on these interns as the winners should tell us that we need to be paying attention to the future, right? So back to the essential body of knowledge. Anybody here signed up to take a pilot exam, also known as a beta? Few hands, right? So we have put together not only an incredible set of activities for today and throughout the week, but we have 7 different sessions scheduled throughout this week, starting today. Matter of fact, going on right now. It'll be going on until 11 o'clock this morning. Started at 8. We're actually rolling out the pilots for 2 of our what will end up being 3 exams that form the basis of our certification program. The 2 that we're betaing are GIS analysis and tools and the remote sensing and analysis. Those are 2 separate exams. There is a 3rd exam that's still in development right now that will be data management. Here's how that's going to work. It's pretty simple. Each exam or module is a standalone test. Take them at your pleasure and at your leisure. Each one that you pass, you get a professional certificate for. You pass all 3, you get the USGIF Universal GEOINT certification. Not for the faint at heart. So if you're just a GIS person or just an IA, if that's the way you think of the world, you're probably not going to do too well on one or more of these exams. I have watched over the last 25 years I've been involved with something related to geospatial intelligence, an incredible convergence of activity between raster and vector world, the science and technology. All of it is really slammed together at such a breathtaking pace that is almost what we used to think of as completely impossible. I can remember sitting there on Spark workstations having to do things in vector land and then go over to another box, maybe a Silicon Graphics box, to do stuff on Rasterland, and then somehow try to get the two of them to combine, right? Last night, I had a great event over the Spy Museum. Dr. Todd Backestow. Todd, you raise your hand? Right? So if anybody here heard of the Geospatial Intelligence MOOC that Penn State put together, that was Todd's effort. He and his team put that together. Incredible event at the Science Museum where Todd and Penn State invited the folks that had participated in the MOOC in some fashion, either took as a student or participated in the creation. Unbelievable interest globally in this thing that we're calling geospatial intelligence, right? Used to be, as Director Cardillo said just last night, used to be, it was only in a closed environment. Those days are long gone. So, next thing I'd like to talk about in terms of our credentialing program is this thing. Anybody remember this from last year? I'm a geek, so I like the equation, so I put it up here again. What was interesting is that if you take a look at this, remote sensing and GIS and open source and data management times your technology quotient, right? That's not far from what ended up being really the basis of what our credential really is. So that's what it looks like. If you want a copy of this, we are handing them out. Come see me, Dr. Max Baber. Max, somewhere in here. Maybe he's outside. Max and I will have copies of these, or we'll get you copies of them if you're interested. Here's why we don't hand them out. We printed them for you to read. We're not leaving them laying around. We want you to grab them, though. If you want multiple copies to take back to your students or your cohorts at work, ask for them. We'll give them to you gladly. It's also posted on the USGIF website. You can download it as a PDF and print 100 copies if you want. We are building much of our credentialing program around this document. We're redoing our accreditation guidelines for our accredited schools. We have 12 accredited schools now. This document will serve as ballast for all of that. What's in it? That's what's in it. Think back to the equation from last year, right? Take a look at this. Look familiar? Same thing, just a different format. But you notice the synthesis, collaboration, and reporting that are on this chart here, those are additional, we'll call them soft skills, that are going to be sprinkled throughout the 3 modules or the 3 exams that you'll see. One other thing that you're going to see here today and throughout the week is this whole concept of ISM, Industry Solutions Market Space. And that's what it looks like. It went live this past week. What I mean by live, here's what Industry Solutions Market Space is. It is a market research tool that USGIF built in conjunction with USGIF member OG Systems to allow for this free interchange of ideas and actual, no kidding, demonstration of technology. There's no buy it here button, folks. So if you're a vendor and you have a good idea you want to be able to put in here, you can put it against what we're calling discoveries. We actually do have 3 discoveries that are in this Industry Solutions Market Space already. We have over 26 companies already signed up to participate. NGA has put 3 what we're calling discoveries into ISM. I encourage everyone, there are 2 kiosks that are on the concourse floor. Sign up. You need the DUNS number. If you don't know what your DUNS number is, come see Keith Barber, who is sitting right over here in the first section. Keith will help you with that, and if Keith can't help you, come see me. I might actually be able to help you too. Some of other folks may have heard of a stuff called GSM. That is a NGA program, GEOINT Solutions Marketplace. That is a program that Karen Hayes-Ryan is responsible for. Karen talked last year about GSM, and for those of you that remember that, GSM is also up and running. It's another opportunity to be able to interface with the government. The difference between GSM and ISM is pretty simple. With ISM, you can actually do business to business if you want. You can actually do teaming and partnerships there, and you can demonstrate the capability. GSM, specifically, is to answer the challenges that NGA has, that they have posted. So if you're interested in doing direct business with NGA, GSM is another alternative. To date, they've had over 300 folks register for GSM, had over 200 submissions, and 70 have been fully evaluated. So it's up and running. And Karen is also sitting over here. This is the Rogues Gallery side, apparently. Right? This is where all the troublemakers are. So if anyone has any questions on GSM, Karen would be more than happy to field your questions. Today, and this morning specifically, we've divided up into two pieces, right? So what we're going to talk about next, I'm going to cede the stage here forthwith, my newest favorite word. I learned it from an attorney, and it was okay. It wasn't that kind of forthwith, but it's okay. We're going to have these folks come up on stage. I'm going to introduce them just very briefly. We have Gary Dunow. He's the director for NJ's Analysis Directorate. We have John Gulgajian. He's the director of Source Operations and Management at NGA. Paula Nepper, and she's the program director, Emerging Threats and Opportunities from Los Alamos. And Eileen Presser, director of Air Force GEOINT Office of the U.S. Air Force. Each of these senior government officials is going to talk about a strategic challenge that each of their organizations have. Here's how we're going to work that. It's a lightning keynote. Quite literally, I'm going to give them a hook. They got about 6.5 minutes, and they're going to go boop off the stage. Next, next, next. When we're done with the lightning keynotes, each of you probably, or should have, on your seats, a little card. It's got a room number on it. 147 A, B, C, and D, I believe. Everybody not have a card? If you don't have one, grab one from the seat next to you. The whole idea here is simple. When we're done, you're going to get up and go into one of those 4 rooms. At that point in time, you're going to hear from a representative from each of those 4 organizations that is a technical expert in a more tactical sense, if you will. They're going to go and give a presentation and field questions at that point in time. And we're going to have you stay in the room that you're assigned to for approximately an hour. Because what will happen is after 15 minutes, the presenters, our SMEs, subject matter experts, will rotate. You'll stay seated. You don't have to go anywhere. Matter of fact, we don't want you to go anywhere. Stay there, and all 4 presenters will rotate through your room. Everybody get that? Don't go anywhere. Go to your room. Stay there. You got that, Chris? Okay. Okay, good. It took me a while to figure that one out myself. I needed help with that. This afternoon, we've got an incredible lineup. Starting just following lunch with Dr. Steve Rogers, Captain America, for those that you know him, out of Air Force Research Lab down in Dayton. And an incredible lineup of breakout sessions where you can talk to data scientists, you can learn about credentialing, you can talk about what the new lexicon looks like, you can learn about small sats. Right? They'll all be right in the breakout rooms right across the hall. So if anybody has any questions, you really just need to look for, I don't have it on, a whole pile of USGF staff are against this pillar to my right. If you see a red badge, it's the red badge of courage. This is what I call it. Ask them. If they can't help you, they'll find someone who can. Okay, so please don't be bashful. So I'd like to call up on the stage now our 4 keynote speakers. I think we're starting with John. It's actually JPEG, which I didn't make up. So it's John, then Eileen, and then Paula, and then Gary in that order. So why don't you 4 come on up, and we'll sit you down. John, Paula, Eileen, and Gary. There will be a quiz.
These are
John, Paula, Eileen. I have to do this, right? You're awesome.
You did say Eileen first.
I did. That was me. Okay. This point in time, I'm going to turn it over to our keynotes. We're ready to roll. Okay. So without further ado, John?
I got my 6.5.
You are ready. You are up, man.
All right.
Timer's running.
Great. So I think Daryl and I must have worked together in the same place at some time when he talked about Spark workstations and Silicon Graphics. And one of my claims to infamy that I wear proudly is twice, while I was coding on a Silicon Graphics workstation, it actually burst into flames. So I'm taking that as part of my my claim. I had mad skills in the day. Anyways, as Daryl said, I'm the director of NGA's Source Operations and Management. And the strategic challenge I really want to talk about is how we're changing from an industrial age to a post-industrial age process for how we're addressing collection, okay? And it's really based on the entirety of the new sources that are coming online, both imagery and non-imagery sources. So, today and once we really had limited sources and sets of targets. And our job really was to balance the load from what we had, to squeeze as much juice from the fruit as we could to cover, and we valued ourselves on the number of targets we could collect and the square nautical miles of imagery we could collect on the Earth. It wasn't easy, but it was manageable and it was repeatable. It was very industrial. And to some extent we're that way, but we're starting to evolve based on some of the new capabilities coming online and advanced thinking of how we're approaching these intelligence problems. As we all know, over the next few years, the remote sensing industry is really going to turn our job on its head. We're going to go from finite resources, finite collection capabilities to infinite opportunities for collecting known facilities and the opportunity to detect unknown activity. Couple that with the advanced national sensors that are coming online, and we must change from thinking of ourselves as collectors to sensors. This doesn't only apply to the traditional GEOINT sources, imagery-based. We must also couple the explosion of spatially aware data from the internet, from social media to voluntary geographic information to have a complete understanding of the issues that we're trying to solve. First thing we must do is change our value. Again, it will no longer be successful to collect large amounts of targets and square nautical miles of imagery on a daily basis. Soon we'll be able to we'll collect the entire globe daily and multiple times a day over certain areas. At a concurrent time, our approach and our value proposition must change. Our value will be in sense making, not in just merely collecting data. Our process must change from that industrial age process I told you of collecting information, the assembly line of if-then statements, to a post-industrial process of multimodal understanding of activities, and that will drive collection models, and Gary's going to talk a little bit more about that at the end as well, where we can leverage the ever-present data, ever-present sensors and data to drive the taskable and exquisite sensors to answer questions asked and unasked. We must develop more automated strategies to do this as well, based on the continually evolving knowledge of issues and data and sensors. About 2 years ago, when I was leading the Map of the World activity, we had an industry day at NGA where we issued 4 broad challenges. Those challenges really helped drive the thinking of where we're moving the developing map of the world and brought some really interesting industrial processes and technologies from industry into NGA at a rapid sense. In the breakout sessions, Scott Webster is going to lead the one on next-gen tasking, and he's going to talk about one of those challenges that we're going to do for next-gen tasking. And in September, we're going to have a similar industry day at the agency where we're going to issue 4 or 5 broad challenges from this tasking approach and ask you all to come help us solve these problems, to move us forward from thinking about things as finite to addressing the infinite, so we can solve the problems of tomorrow instead of looking back in the processes that we had in the past. So, ma'am?
Can I get my slides? Go ahead. Oh, I just wondered if I could get my slides to roll. A secret laboratory was established in April 1943 with the sole purpose of ending the Second World War. Los Alamos National Laboratory has a proud history and heritage of 70 years of science and innovation. Great minds and multidisciplinary teams were gathered in a mesa in northern New Mexico to perform a scientific, technical, and engineering feat that had never been accomplished before, in order to solve a crucial and immediate national security concern. In collaboration with researchers in the states of Washington and Tennessee, as well as researchers at the University of Chicago, Los Alamos National Laboratory constructed, then tested, the first ever full-scale nuclear device at the Trinity site in southern New Mexico. The Trinity test occurred July 16, 1945, just under 70 years ago. the first ever full-scale nuclear explosion at the Trinity site exceeded 18 tons of TNT. Almost 70 years have passed since the Trinity test. The mission of the laboratory has changed and evolved over these 70 years. The sole purpose of the laboratory was to develop a weapon that would end a world war. Today, our mission continues to support national security challenges with scientific excellence, and our focus is threefold. The first of that focus is nuclear stockpile stewardship and nuclear deterrence. The US nuclear stockpile is the smallest it has been in more than 60 years. But as long as nuclear weapons exist, the nation will maintain a safe, secure, and effective arsenal. Nuclear weapons serve as a deterrent to potential US adversaries and serve to assure US allies that the US security guarantee remains unchallenged. Los Alamos' roots were in developing a nuclear weapon, and today we protect the nation and the world from those very nuclear weapons. Our second focus is protecting against the nuclear threat. This will be the topic that I will and my colleague from Los Alamos will discuss in more details. This is where a strategy that builds upon the scientific excellence and heritage of the national laboratories can be strengthened with a geospatial intelligence framework. Our strength in protecting against the nuclear threat is derived from the synergy between our nuclear programs and emerging threat global security programs. We apply our core weapons expertise to assess foreign nuclear weapons programs and emerging threats posed by improvised nuclear devices. Global security programs also leverage industrial partnerships for moving ideas and innovation into the mainstream systems and products. And our third focus is identification of emerging and disruptive technologies. Los Alamos National Laboratory protects our nation and world from emerging threats, nuclear threats, regardless of origin. The origin of those threats can be emerging, proliferant, or unconventional. We exercise our abilities in non-proliferation and counter-proliferation to prevent and interdict the spread of nuclear technologies to emerging states. As you can conceive, this mission can only be strengthened by the use of a comprehensive geospatial intelligence capability and techniques. LANL applies core scientific capabilities to protect against unconventional transnational threats and support counterterrorism emergency response to nuclear-related events. The science necessary to enable our threefold mission clearly resides in the National Laboratory Complex, but in many cases, the science that supports and enables this is stovepiped. The strategies the laboratories should embrace moving forward is to develop and implement geospatial intelligence tools that allow and enable our analysts a comprehensive view of the spectrum of threats. These are multidisciplinary science problems that provide us with a truly multi-int data opportunity. There is an absolute requirement to respond rapidly with accurate analysis and a need to respond rapidly with effective technology that is ever increasing as national threats grow, more asymmetric, and technology and information are more universally accessible to our adversaries. We need to lead our nation along a parallel course so that we have universal access to our own data, and that data is readily accessible to the appropriate user in a geospatial context. We must manage our solutions to this multi-int science problem using geospatial techniques. LANL is leading many R&D efforts in this particular emerging area of research using internal investments and industrial partnerships. Los Alamos provides the technical backbone to national and international efforts to understand and limit nuclear proliferation, including effective national technical means to verify compliance with nuclear test ban treaties. Los Alamos has been involved in agile space sensing and science for treating monitoring, starting with the first Vela satellites launched at the dawn of the space age some 50 years ago, and continuing with the latest global positioning satellite systems being deployed today. Los Alamos develops transformational technologies to better recognize nuclear and radiological threats. We lead the nation's effort to strengthen capabilities of allies to deter, detect, and respond to illicit trafficking of nuclear materials at international border crossings. All of these capabilities rely deeply on technical and scientific knowledge, but will only realize full utility when we deploy them in a cohesive, integrated tool. Enhancing our ability to detect, monitor, and deter nuclear proliferation therefore requires a strategy that embraces a comprehensive geospatial analysis capability. My colleague Daniela Moody will discuss some of the specific programs and projects that Los Alamos researchers are exploring to support this mission in the following breakout session.
Thank you. I'm Eileen Pricer, and as many of you know, you saw on the slide, I am the Senior Executive for Air Force Targeting and Geospatial Information Intelligence. Air Force does do something very specific. As you probably know, we fly airplanes, but we also are responsible for flying other types of aircraft, spacecraft, and a variety of experimental types of projects. If you think about Air Force in general, it's unusual for anyone to imagine that you can execute a mission as broad as we fly and we fight without navigation. And so navigation is one of our primary concerns. With fighting, especially over the past 2 decades, we've run into some challenges of environment, both in space and on the planet. Our science, technology, and engineering managers are prolific in understanding how do we get our arms around understanding the different processes as well as the different technologies that need to be created, manipulated, and monitored to be able to ensure flying and fighting. Today I brought 2 of what I would consider our specific experts in environmental modeling and in weather and science studies today, Thomas Buist and Teresa Hostetter. And both of them will be talking to you about some of our huge challenges in the environmental sector. You may not be aware that the Air Force partnered recently, and Daryl, I know you know this, with the United States Navy on some specific efforts in the Arctic to try and discover where some of our liabilities might be from a defensive posture should enemies decide to use the Arctic in a way that we haven't traditionally imagined it. But then how can we perhaps harvest some of the rich resources of the Arctic, whether it's solar energy, water power, or the use of certain technologies that can allow us to inhabit environments that are not particularly friendly to the human condition. Those type of movements that we're making in science and technology and engineering satisfy some of the primary GEOINT goals and objectives in remote sensing, in geospatial information management, in how we manage our visualization capabilities, and how we move the ones and zeros around the planet and into space to be able to do those kinds of missions. So I'm hoping that Teresa and Tom will spark questions and maybe curiosity as well as an intent to partner with us, because the more of us working on a solution, the more likely we'll have a terrific solution to show for it. Gary.
Thanks. Good morning, everyone. I'm Gary Duno. All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Gary Duno from the Analysis Directorate at NGA. And I just want to talk a little bit about a very strategic challenge that I think about every day, and I know Director Cardillo does. And that's kind of the bifurcated way we look at our mission and our system and our community. And so we've spent a lot of time over the last couple of years. The conversation started with Ms. Long talking about our opportunity to use the emerging capabilities in the unclassified market in a way that would help NGA do our job and conduct our mission better. I think one of our challenges is we look at things as polar. So there's unclassified and classified, and never the twain shall meet. We have analysis and technology, and very rarely the twain shall meet. It speaks to what Daryl was talking about earlier with the vector world and the raster world, right? And still, the two rarely meet as often as they ought to. And so I think this is probably the most significant challenge for us. We have a graphic that we'll be passing out during the symposium that John and my comms team put together called The Analytic Mind, and it talks about the art of GEOINT and the science of GEOINT. I posted this to a website within the agency not long ago and asked our analysts for comments on this, and it's very interesting because I've gotten a lot of positive and constructive criticism about this analytic mind. And I think the thing that struck me the most is this concern that we're asking everybody to be everything when it comes to conducting GEOINT analysis, and we need to find a way to be able to preserve the technical aspects of our tradecraft. There's the GEOINT mind. It's kind of an eye chart, I understand, but you can take a look at the hard copy version later. And so we're asking our folks to be creative thinkers, problem solvers, looking at analytic problems from a big picture perspective as though a policymaker or a decision maker would, but at the same time have the data science skill sets and the hard science capabilities that we need with the volumes of big data that we're bringing in. And so I think we need to take a different approach. So in my mind, a good analogy is the fact that GEOINT presents a great opportunity now to have a positive influence on the entire intelligence community that Goldwater Nichols attempted to have and continues to have an impact on in the military services. GEOINT's the one thing that brings all intelligence together. We have to treat it that way. We can't treat it as though something that enables single discipline intelligences or all source separate from the single discipline intelligences. And even within our own community, when we look at unclassified versus classified, if we continue to maintain the wall between unclassified and classified analysis, we're not going to accomplish what we're able to accomplish and have the power of the community that we currently have. We have to find a way to conflate the two and use the two appropriately, both for unclassified reporting and for highly technical, highly specific classified reporting. So a challenge that we have is approaching the workforce and the community this way. So I think some of the things we're doing with regard to certification, which you'll hear about later, how we're changing our approach to training and tradecraft and moving away from kind of a trade school approach and moving more towards Socratic thinking approach, but also how we're organized. And so I think we need to look at how we manage the mission and the intelligence problems that exist in the community in a way that allows us to leverage the population in the unclassified world in a way that frees up the highly skilled, highly experienced, long-trained experts that we have in NGA and the rest of the intelligence community, and not consider GEOINT as a commodity for us to hold separately from everyone else. So if we can look at it kind of like a special operations, Delta SEAL team kind of thing done at NGA, conventional forces done across the rest of the community, I think we'll have much more positive impact. So there's a lot of work for us to do on the tradecraft side as well as the technology side, and making technology available to the entire community and data available to the entire community, and only maintaining exquisite capability where we need to protect information and sources and methods. And so I know we have Lon Heyman in the breakout room to talk about where we're going with technology, with a specific focus on analytic models and how we plan to capture and leverage those analytic models across that broad community that I just talked about.
Wow. I'd like to thank our panelists, John, Paula, Eileen, Gary. Big round of applause. So, it's hard to deal with the depth of what these four presenters just talked about in such sound bites, right? We're not giving them a ton of time. That's why we have the additional sessions, so we can kind of get into more of the detail. I wanted to point out a couple other things, right, as the hall is now filled up. Look around you. This event just a couple years ago was just 100 or 200 people, right? We opened this up to 1,100 folks this year. There's a reason that we have 1,100 folks here, right? It's not only in our nation's capital, and this is we're a good number of folks that practice the GEOINT tradecraft, and all of its extended glory actually reside. But it also is a place where ideas can be born and shared. I really would love to encourage everybody here to collaborate, talk to one another, right? If you're a type B like me, get out of your shell and go talk to folks, right? We have one other thing I wanted to point out, and it's pretty important. USGIF actually just went to an individual membership model. So we still have a corporate membership model, but we have an individual membership model. We have 9 current working groups and 2 more in the works to stand up. We have 6 committees. Get involved. Plug yourself in. Talk to people that are at your academic institutions if you're from an academic institution. Most folks here probably have a degree from someplace. You probably know a professor or 2 at your alma maters. Have them get in touch with us if they're not in an accredited school. Right? So this is a team sport, folks. This is a ridiculously team sport. You heard it here, right? So it's like there could be great ideas, but it's only going to happen, and the conversation is only going to get richer if you dig in and participate, right? Don't be on the sideline. Be part of the solution, right? So at this point in time, we're done in this room. What I'd like you to do is calmly, this isn't a fire drill, grab your card, and make your way over to the respective breakout areas. We're going to start, right now, I've got 10:39. We're looking to start right at 10:45. So please don't delay. Get yourself across the way, get yourself seated, and we'll see you on the other side. Thank you very much.